Hello and welcome to Cutoff Genes, the podcast that teaches you how to find your truth using nothing but DNA. I'm Julie Dixon Jackson, and I'm a genetic genealogist, heretofore known as a Gen Genie.
And I'm Renee Colvert. I'm the person who asked the questions.
I'm Richard Castle. I listen to the questions and the answers, and I don't know what's going on, but I am the producer. Hello.
We got him.
He also has a lot of references about 70s sitcoms.
It's great. Where else are you going to find that? Tune in for two things, DNA and references on 70s podcasts.
There's a way to combine that.
To be fair, there's some from the 80s and also perhaps even the 60s, but those were reruns when I watched them, people. I'm not that old.
Phew. Let's put that in Corrections Corner. Okay. Hey, Julie.
Yes?
You are getting some pretty great reviews on iTunes.
I know.
You maybe have the world's best listeners.
I think so.
They're so great. And the Facebook group's starting to kick up a lot.
Yep.
I love it. You guys, great job participating. But then I was also going to say, because you're too humble to do it, if you like this show, not only like iTunes is great, Facebook is great, but tell a buddy, tell a friend, like a little bit like word of mouth is the best way to share a podcast.
Yeah.
So if you like it, just tell one pal. That's it. That's your assignment for this week. Just tell one pal about the podcast.
If every listener tells one pal, we'll have 2 million listeners.
Right. And then we'll clap and we'll
I may
believe
be
in fairies.
And they told two friends, and so on, and so on.
And so on.
All right.
There's also commercials. Yeah. It was a shampoo commercial. All right.
Got it. Okay. So
are we
what
ready?
Are you guys talking? Do we know what shampoo?
Oh, of course. I keep forgetting how young Renee is. Corrections Corner. Renee.
Yeah. Oh. Somebody goofed.
So I got an email last week
Yeah, you did.
from Renee saying, whoops. My results came in May, and they were in my spam box.
I know, but in my defense, they were in my spam box.
Yeah, that's weird. That went to your spam box.
It is a little. I fixed it. I think. I hope. I don't know why Google send in DNA results to spam, but also all my other like ancestry because they think they don't.
They think it's advertising.
Super spam you with it, but there's a lot of like, hey, now that you're in, do you want to check this out? Have you met this person? I would say about one a day from Ancestry saying,
Really?
we gotcha. Yeah. So,
however, your results went to spam. So
yeah,
that's a problem.
exactly crazy. Yeah. But great news, they're in.
Yeah,
and
great news they're in.
Sorry.
And not so great news. I looked at them and there's nothing interesting.
Yeah, I'm boring as can be.
Well, you don't have anything closer as of yet,
Right.
Than a third cousin.
Yeah.
And I haven't had time to look at those yet to know if they're.
Same thing's happening on 23. I suspect that's what happens when you have a mega small family. Because I have 9 people in my family, 9 immediate family members.
Your tree is quite large, though. And I just haven't had a chance to really break down your matches person by person.
Right.
Because I can figure it out.
I know you can.
I know.
I believe in you.
Yeah, it's true.
Hey, Rich, remember I was 3 months late on those DNA results? His face was just like, you did what?
I was starting to worry. I know. Actually.
I was like, how does this company stay in business if they take 6 months to get back to you?
Yeah, it's really unheard of. I mean, it does take a long time, but yeah.
Am I going to be sued for slander? Listen, they're slow. You heard it here first.
Sorry, Ancestry.
Sorry, you guys were pretty quick. Sorry.
Yeah, well, Ancestry has made mistakes before, too. So,
Sure. Okay.
And I get about all those emails. I get something I think I bought something from Pier 1 like 3 years ago, and I get literally 2 emails a day from them. So I don't understand why. I wish I'd never given them my email address.
Right.
well, next time you're sitting waiting for an appointment, go into your phone and unsubscribe to all those things. You can do that.
But then I might miss a sale.
I hate it, but I love it.
Point taken. I know. Roadrunner sports for me. All right. So, yeah, that's it. Wah wah.
Okay, great.
We'll get back to
Yeah,
that.
we got the results. They're boring. Moving on.
I'll have a look. I want to look at how different your ethnicity results are.
Oh, yeah.
Because they
were
vastly different in most companies.
Yeah.
So, and people are freaking out about that. So I'm going to get to that in a little
All right.
bit.
I'll be curious.
All right. So last week, Rich asked, what is the default setting on 23andMe regarding participating in scientific research? So I tweeted directly to the source. Okay, I said, what is the default setting on opting in or out on scientific testing, medical testing, what have you? And they responded, when you register your 23andMe sample kit, You have the option to accept or decline Research Assistant. This can be updated within your account settings at any time. If you have any further questions, contact our customer care team here. Well, I did have further questions, but I just tweeted back to them because I didn't want to go to that thing
Sure, it's too
anyway,
much
because
work.
I wanted to say, but
Yeah.
is there a default setting?
Right.
And they said, no, there is no default setting. Your kit won't be registered until you have
Oh, that's great.
done all the settings.
Yeah. So you choose out of the gate, but if you're going through it quickly, you might make your default setting. Sure. That's what I do. Yes. What'll get me to the end of this?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. So the answer is there are no default settings. And if you don't know what you're doing, go back in and you can recheck and change your default settings or change your settings.
Cool. Good question. Good answer. Everybody did this well.
All right. So I was talking a little bit about the ethnicity differences.
Right.
And surprises people get from their ethnicity. And I've noticed a lot of like clickbait type articles on the Facebook of late. And there was one headline specifically that bugged me. It said, botched DNA test raises tough questions for Ancestry.com.
Botched is a rough word for DNA.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Right. And that to me sounds like, oh my God, they missed out on who your family is.
Right.
So of course I go and look at it, and what it is somebody's ethnicity settings were not what they thought they were.
Okay.
And there was an uproar within the family.
Oh no.
So that's not botched.
Yeah.
That's just getting, and once again,
It's your family's closed-minded.
right. Once again, all of the companies tell you that this is only an estimate.
Sure.
And they're all using a different source material
Right.
for their ethnicity settings. And that's why your ethnicity settings change sometimes.
Yeah.
Like every few months, like on Ancestry. Anyway, DNA matching doesn't lie.
Okay.
It's pretty correct as up until third cousins when it drops off by 10%. And then, slowly gets further and further. But they're not going to tell you somebody's your father if he's not your father.
Right. Yeah. They don't screw up like that.
So the bottom line is, even though they advertise, and they are guilty of this, they advertise all about ethnicity when the only thing it's really valuable for a lot of us is the genealogy and the DNA testing for who's my family.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And now for a listener question.
Love it.
Listener question.
Okay.
So listener Debbie Blanton and several others actually drew my attention to this article entitled Sperm Donor Secrets Emerge as Australia Law Retroactively Erases Anonymity.
Ooh.
Yeah. So remember we talked about that.
Yeah.
That one documentary about that was basically about that law, and it's finally come into they finally passed it.
I just want all these companies, egg donors, sperm donors, all of them, for their slogan to all be, oh yeah, they're going to find you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah, they're going to find you. Sure.
Okay. All right. So now that's everybody knows who's who.
Right. So this organization, VARDA, is in Victoria, my home state.
Okay.
And it was the group behind this legislation, and it was dissected and debated for years, and it finally took effect in 2017.
Okay.
VARDA maintains a register of donors, offspring, and their parents, and counsels them through the intricate dynamics involved.
Cool.
Behind it all was a quest for the truth by people whose lives began in a lab in an era where the sperm and egg donation industry was swathed in secrecy. Swathed. So the result for some of those children was a deep desire to complete the puzzle of their identity. Hello?
Yeah.
It happens. And I thought this was interesting. One woman says, in describing her desire to find her donor, the best word she could come up with was a Welsh word called, and the word is Hiraeth.
Okay.
Hiraeth, Hiraeth.
Right.
And it means loosely a homesickness for a place you may never have been, a longing for something you never had.
All right. Welsh, you've thought of everything with your vocabulary.
And that speaks to me.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, I get it. You don't know what you're missing, but you know you're missing something.
Yeah.
It's that missing.
No, believe me. Listen, that's how I feel when there's no dessert. I don't know what it is, but I need it.
feel
You're
that
a
way.
child.
I feel that way when people talk about Game of Thrones because I've literally never watched it, but everyone is talking about it, and I feel like, oh gosh, I'm really missing out. But it's just too much like of a commitment to go back and start from square one, and I can't just start watching in the middle of it. I can't.
No, you
Right,
can't. You
right.
do have to go back to the beginning. Shame. All right. You Game of Throners will know
Yeah.
what
No,
I'm
that's a
talking
Homeland
about.
reference. It's we
Yeah,
took it.
Anywho, getting back
Yes.
to the law.
Right.
So some countries, including Australia, have now banned anonymous donation. But Victoria is only the second jurisdiction in the world to impose a law retroactively, stripping away anonymity without the donor's consent.
Whew, crazy.
Switzerland was the first to do so in 2001. Way to go, Switzerland, almost 20 years ago. But many donor records were destroyed.
Of course.
It's always something.
So now with this new retroactive law, is there also something else in place that says, but you're not responsible financially?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm sure.
That
would be crazy.
I'm mega wrong about this, but I really do think it's a financial, oh no, now I'm responsible burden for these people. Because I think a lot of times the reason you donate is because you're hard up on money to begin with.
Right. But I can't. That doesn't make any sense at all to me.
Okay, that's fair.
know.
That's fair.
To play devil's advocate here, I will just say that when you sign up for something
Yeah.
and then they change the rules on you retroactively,
Yeah.
Yes.
it feels a little unfair. It's a little bait and switch, or in this case, I guess,
no.
sperm and switch.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's a little odd. I mean, if I went and did something 20 years ago and they said I was going to be anonymous, I would assume that would be forever. I agree. Everyone has the right to know about their heritage, and perhaps that should have been something they thought about when they first came up with the idea of sperm donation.
Right.
But
Or adoption.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. But I just question the ethics of changing the rules long after the fact, and I'm just going to say it.
Yeah,
All right. I don't.
that's fair. And I think that's fair. I think
We can
it
agree
really
to disagree. Yeah.
depends what side you're on. Because we really are on both sides. Because as an egg donor and as an adoptee,
Yes.
I am like, oh, but you said you wouldn't.
Yeah. I get that.
Right.
However,
Of course. Yeah.
no, I do get it. And for years I was very defensive about it. And when I was looking, people would always say, "Well, why are you looking?" And I was always saying, "Well, I don't want to. I don't want to disrupt anybody's life.
Sure.
I don't want to ruin anybody's life."
Right.
And then I started to realize, well, I didn't ask to be here.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
a human. I'm not trying to ruin anybody's life. I just want some answers.
Yeah.
And I think I have a right to that. And I'm certain, well, me personally, I have no desire to invade anybody's life.
Right.
I just want to know where I came from, what my line is, and the medical issues with them and family.
Of course.
It's a little bit like my Pier 1 story. It's like, I went to Pier 1 3 years ago.
I bought this Mama-san chair.
Yeah, and now these people are coming back at me all the time, and they're calling me Papa, and I'm like, wait a minute, I just wanted to buy the chair.
Yeah. But I think you're right. I think you're right. I think I'm right. I think maybe the people who are wrong is the whole system itself of it should never have been anonymous.
Am I right?
Yes, you are. And Pier 1's right.
It's a complicated ethical situation.
It is.
That's
It
all
is.
I'm saying.
Yes.
There's no right or wrong answer here. It's just people
Yes,
have
there
different
is.
opinions.
No, I get it. I understand. No, the reason I said that
Yeah.
was I was on one of the genealogy pages, not the DNA pages.
Right.
And that's where I get in trouble.
Sure.
Because someone was posting that she had just gotten a match that thinks she's her half sister.
Oh, wow.
And she had obviously been searching for a while. She had the exact right amount of centimorgans, and she was in the right place at the right time where this girl's father was, and what have you. And the girl was asking for advice on what do I ask my father to see if this is a thing or see if he knows about this or what have you. And she was just asking that. And some people, not all of them, were saying things like, I would just leave it alone. You're opening up a can of worms here. And they would say other things like, well, your poor dad. And I will say this, it's triggering
Sure.
for somebody like me. Every time I hear that they're worried about messing up this family or they're worried about this poor guy he didn't even know. And what they're forgetting is that there's a third person in this triad
Yeah.
that actually is the most innocent of all because they didn't ask to be born.
Right. Exactly.
And
Yeah.
it makes us feel, a lot of adoptees feel like they weren't good enough. And it's kind of like it just continues that feel. So I just want to say, people, and I told her, and she got very defensive, and I was just saying, this is triggering, just so you know, most of us, I don't think she wants anything. She just wants to know who she is.
Of course, yeah.
And she got very defensive and didn't want to talk to me anymore. And I said, fine.
It's tough. It's a sensitive thing, and I get that completely. I think, the thing that you just introduced me to that I hadn't thought of was like, well, where's you're about to bring so much value to this person's life? Why is it just assumed that it's going to be disruptive?
Yes, that they're going to be a crazy person that wants money.
Sure.
Right. We've talked about this on this podcast before, that there is a difference ethically, I think, between people who are adopted and are trying to find out their birth parents as opposed to someone who was a sperm donor or an egg donor that did something. I just feel like it's a little different ethically.
Right. Yeah, it's also it's a touchy subject. It's touchy, and it's so hard to not be anecdotal about it.
You're right. It is a touchy subject, and it is an ethical quandary. And we will, I'm sure, continue to talk about this as the years go on, everybody. Yeah. And so are the days of our lives. All right, let's take a break.
Okay.
If you're enjoying Cutoff Genes, please subscribe, rate, and review. Now back to Julie and Renee.
And we're back.
I missed you.
I knew you were going to say that. I looked at you and waited for you to say that. All right, so this week I noticed, I don't remember where, but Richard Hale, who is, one of the pioneers of the Finding Family Through DNA movement. He did it himself in the 80s, I think, and has written an amazing book. He wrote 7 guidelines for adoptees. I think this is 5, but he wrote 7. I'm only going to give you 5 of them.
Yeah, that's it. You got to go find it yourself. That's good.
So this is for people who are NPEs or adoptees who get close family matches.
Cool.
And what to do about it.
Great.
The first few days after that. And, so
these are good tips.
Yeah, these are some tips for that, for people who are like, what do I do? What does this mean? All right, number 1, as soon as you see a close match, take screenshots of everything relating to that match and any associated family tree. In rare cases, I don't know how rare it is, people who discover a close relative and are afraid to face the situation will delete their accounts. That happens. So honestly, the number 1 thing to do when you see a close match, just screenshot it.
Okay.
Screenshot them, screenshot your shared matches with them.
Right.
Very important. And any other information that is on there in case all of a sudden that disappears. At least you'll have the information. When you first reach out, perhaps by email or through the testing company's internal contact system, be pleasant and a little vague about the relationship. Now, don't lie. You don't want to mislead anybody, but it's okay to be vague.
Okay.
Here's an example. According to my DNA results on the name test, you and I are closely related. I have an idea how this might be possible, and I would like to discuss this privately with you. Please call me or write back. Here's my contact information. Now, because some people have done more than one DNA test, it's important to mention the name of the site in which the match occurred.
Okay.
I mentioned that last week. And it's also good to quickly make it clear that you can be discreet.
Oh, great.
You don't want to come across as a threat to anybody.
Right.
Ideally, you want to get them on the phone as soon as possible, and so you can comfortably share your side of the story and gather some basic information and pick up on voice clues.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good template of what to say. That sounds awesome. Okay.
Yes. All right. If you do not hear back soon, search elsewhere for a phone number. You guys all know this is what I do.
Yeah, exactly. You're
I'm just giving guidelines. Search elsewhere for a phone number or a mailing address using whatever clues you have. If your match was only identified by a username, search online for that name. It may have been used on other sites. Here's a tip. If it's a name, say it's Mocha 12. I don't know where that came up out of nowhere.
Sure.
But Google mocha12 at AOL.com, mocha12 or just do mocha12 in parentheses on Google. And if somebody is using that as a username somewhere else, it'll come up.
Interesting. Very
and
cool.
Then on places like Pinterest, Facebook, LinkedIn, lots of different places that you wouldn't even think of looking. Actually, Pinterest is one of the largest databases there are.
That's very smart.
I was just thinking that you're going to find a lot of coffee sites.
Yeah, also
with
that.
Mocha 12.
You want to know the best coffee in your neighborhood. It's a win-win.
Let's hope it's not Mocha 12. All right. Once you obtain a mailing address, prepare a carefully written introductory letter. Tell a little about yourself. Don't brag. Please don't brag. But leave an impression that you're a nice, intelligent, and well-adjusted person. Gently explain your reasons for searching and why getting answers to your questions means so much to you.
Great. Yeah.
Briefly explain how the amount of DNA you share points to a specific parent-child or sibling relationship. Do not say that you expect an ongoing relationship. Focus on the reasonable answers you seek.
I love this. This is excellent. It's also great advice for a cover letter for a job.
Indeed.
Let them know you're reasonable. Let them know you're sane. Good. I like it.
He also says include photos of yourself at various ages. Sometimes seeing a family resemblance will be enough to warm the heart and bridge the gap. I don't think I would send photos to like a great aunt or something that are not. I wouldn't send photos to somebody who definitely isn't that close with the person you're trying to connect with, but can still connect you with them.
That's fair.
That's just my thing. And last of all, manage your expectations, guys. Important. Getting your questions answered is the primary goal. Mm-hmm. A good relationship with newfound relatives would be icing on the cake, but it's not always possible for a variety of reasons. You just have to play it by ear.
Great. Those
Good
are
luck.
really good tips. I love those.
I liked it, and I thought I would share it.
Good.
All right, so we have a listener question.
I love it. Okay.
This is from Stacy Jeros. Hi, Julie. Would you please talk about shared ancestor hints on Ancestry? What triggers them? What do they tell you? What do you do with them? I'm using the free site, so I'm wondering if I'm not seeing their full potential. I have 3 all-known maternal relatives. I also match dozens of known maternal relatives that don't trigger hints. Thank you. I love the podcast. Thanks, Stacy. Okay. What triggers them? What triggers a shared ancestor hint on your DNA results? In order to get a shared ancestor hint, you will have to build a tree on Ancestry and connect it to your DNA. I've talked about this before. I'm being more specific. If you're able to build back 3 to 5 generations on at least a few of your lines, you should have a few shared ancestor hints show up within a few days. But not necessarily, because it all depends on other people's trees. Okay? As more close distant relatives test and attach their tree, that's what it says, to their DNA, more shared ancestor hints will come.
Okay.
But all of those things have to fall into place in order for it to happen.
The more you give, the more you get.
Absolutely.
Get it. All right.
Okay, what do shared ancestor hints tell you? If you have shared ancestor hints, for each match that you share a shared ancestor hint, this means that you share DNA with this person.
Okay.
Both of you have your DNA attached to your family tree.
Okay.
Right. You both have at least one person added to your trees that appears to be the same person.
Great. Okay.
So if their name is almost the same.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Mocha 12. Right. No, with the people in the tree.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. But no, that seems okay. So far, that seems like it's an educated hint of just like, this is what we're basing it off of.
They're not telling you to do your research. They're not saying this is it and this is what you live by.
Right.
But it's usually pretty correct.
Okay.
Sometimes they're a little wonky, but
thing that seals the deal is you have the same name on your tree, is what will kind of launch into that.
Yes, and if they're that will launch it. And there are a few occasions where it'll be way off. It'll be like, well, how can that possibly be? They're in a different country, or this is 100 years earlier.
It's a super common name,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really fun when you have Smiths and Jones.
Right.
Oh, boy.
Yay.
All right. If I don't have a subscription, will my shared ancestor hints still work? Okay. It's not necessary to have a subscription to continue to view your results, including your DNA match list and ethnicity results. You even continue to get updates about your ethnicity results.
Right.
You'll also be able to see whether you have shared ancestor hints, how many you have, and which DNA matches share them with you. Since Ancestry requires a subscription to view other members' family trees, that's the difference.
Okay.
Including those of your DNA matches, you will need a subscription in order to view the shared ancestor hint. So if you're serious about this, guys, I would pull the trigger and
get the subscription.
Yeah, get a subscription, because if you can't look at other people's trees, it's pretty useless.
Right. So kind of like it's on demand TV, where we're going to show you the trailer, but if you want to see the movie, you're gonna have to pay.
Or we're going to show you the first 10 minutes of this movie.
Sure. Yeah.
I hate
Okay.
that.
Right.
Rich is just shaking his head, rolling his eyes. They get you, or they tease you, and then you want to watch it.
You know, that used to happen on the plane all the time. Where
Right.
they like let you start watching it 10 minutes, and then it's like, oh, okay, that'll be $15. I'm like, what? But you're stuck, and there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
Any hoozle. Okay. So, Stacey, I hope that cleared that up for you. Thanks for asking. And let's take a second break.
All right.
All right.
Thank you for listening to Cutoff Genes, the new podcast starring Julie Dixon Jackson with Renee Colbert.
We're back, Renee.
Yay. I really did miss you, and I'm very excited to get into this segment.
Do you like my outfit?
I love you. Do look cute. Cute as can be today.
Thank you. All right.
Enough about the outfit. Get to the
Yeah,
story.
exactly.
I've been
So we're stalling.
dying
We're stalling.
Since
What
last
story?
week.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like people are pretty cool to just wait a full week to hear the rest of
maybe
this.
I should just talk about something else
Yeah,
today.
do you have any good recipes you want to share?
I feel like we should like play some old time organ music, like an old radio show, and say, when last we spoke, Julie had just gotten DNA results back.
All right, so when last we spoke, I had just logged on to 23andMe and Malcolm's results and discovered that they told me we shared no DNA.
Right. And this is supposed to be your birth father.
This is supposed to be my birth father.
So you
correct
should have some DNA in common.
We should, yes. So I should mention the reason I use 23andMe is that I actually had ordered a bunch of DNA tests from Ancestry because that was my main database that I liked. But they didn't get to me by the time I had to leave Australia, and I called them and yelled at them.
Sure.
And I'd like to apologize for my language, Ancestry, if you remember me.
And the other part of this is that you have just come back from a trip where you have visited all of these relatives who are related to Malcolm.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
They are definitely related to Malcolm.
Yes.
Okay. So I thought that was odd, and I was a little alarmed. So I went to the message boards on 23andMe to see if this had happened to anyone else. And in my mind, I was going to say, hey, guys, who else had this happen?
Right.
Was there, how often do
How
samples
often do
get
they
mixed
mix 'em
up?
up?
And is
Yeah.
there somebody else right now looking at their results and it doesn't make any sense to them? And what I got... some people said to check his settings and make sure he's opted in for sharing.
Right.
Which I obviously
You were
had
in charge of,
done.
so
yes. They wondered if he had sent a decoy sample. That's a no because I watched him do it.
Right.
And I started to panic.
Yeah.
Started to
Yeah.
panic just a
Understandably.
little bit.
Because how long was your Australia trip? A month?
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yes.
3 weeks of meeting your entire, quote, family.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then refresh my memory as to why you believed that Malcolm was your birth father to begin with.
Because that was the name on my original, not on my birth certificate, but it was the name that my mother had written and described him. And of course, after I met her, she talked more about him. She always told me that it could only be him,
Right.
Because there was nobody else.
So did your mom definitely did date this Malcolm? She
Yes.
knew him?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, she
Interesting.
did date them, and there was an event.
Okay.
So yes.
Very elegant.
An event. Sure. So, I started to panic.
Yeah.
And so I looked around 23andMe for a customer service number, which is like a scavenger hunt, by the way. It is so hard to find a number there.
Right.
They want you to email them.
Okay.
But I found it.
Oh, good girl. Very
Yep.
nice.
Because I do. That's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I called it, and it was closed for the holiday.
No.
It's December 31st, everybody.
Boy.
So I then, because there was, I may have left a message if
Yeah.
they allowed me to. I'm sure it wasn't very audible.
Right.
So then I sent him an email, probably in all caps, with lots of exclamation
Yeah, of
points,
course.
as I do. But I knew I wouldn't get a response until after the holiday, and that may have been 4 days away.
Ay, okay.
Yikes. So I went back to the message boards,
Right.
several of them. There were several boards that I was a member of. There was one about adoptees looking for their family. There was one about just the mechanics of how 23andMe works, how autosomal
Right.
DNA works, blah, blah, blah. So I asked on all of them. What I got mostly was people's expressions of sympathy, saying that they were sorry I found out this way.
no.
And mothers are often deceptive as to the identity of fathers. Maybe my parents had used a sperm donor. They didn't know my story. And I felt kind of indignant. It was starting to piss me off. I'm like, no.
No, it's this.
There's no reason for my mother
mom
to lie to
confirmed
me.
it. Yeah.
There's no reason. And he thinks he's my father too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what?
This is a ridiculous comparison, but when I date somebody who doesn't show our relationship online and all my friends are like, oh, girl, he's dating like 8 other people. I'm like, he's not. He told me he wasn't. I'm correct. And then I'm always wrong. So yeah, but I just want to empathize with indignant when you know you're right and you're probably not.
Yes, and especially because you spent thousands of dollars and hours on searching for this person.
Exactly.
It's like, no, this can't possibly be.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a problem. So I just didn't refuse. I mean, I just didn't entertain that idea.
Yeah.
Because that would drive me
There's
nuts.
got to be an explanation.
Yes.
Right.
So that was all I was getting from those guys, though. There were a couple people that were like, yeah, maybe it is, but nobody seemed convinced that it was a mix-up or anything.
Did you call your mom?
Well,
Here
funny
we
you
go.
should ask.
Okay, yeah.
I wasn't going to, but it was now probably Friday or Saturday.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I can't keep things to myself.
Happy New Year, Mom. By the way.
Hey, guess what? It was actually like that.
Right.
So I gave my mom a little jingle jangle, and Lynn gets on the phone, and I said, hey, why don't you go out at earshot? I have something to talk to you about that you may not want anyone else to.
Very considerate.
So she did.
You whore. Oh, boy. This definitely shouldn't have opened like
I'm sure
that.
that's what. Well, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, this is weird.
Yeah.
Malcolm's DNA came back, and it says that he's not my father. And she said, that is weird. That's about as
much as we got.
Yes,
Okay.
that
All
is
right.
weird. And I said, well, so that's not possible, right? And she said, no. And I pressed a little more, and I
Yeah.
said, well, is there a chance it could be John? Mm-hmm. And she said, no, I was already pregnant when I met him.
Right.
I said, okay, because that would actually make sense. And then I told her, she knew I was writing a blog about it.
Right.
So perhaps she was afraid that I would tell the whole world, whatever it was she was
Like
afraid
what you're doing now.
Right.
That ship has sailed, Rich. So I told her that I promised if this was a secret that she'd been keeping all these years and couldn't imagine finally, because obviously everybody thought that was the truth.
Sure.
That perhaps, maybe could she just tell me just for my own peace of mind?
Right.
I would continue my own research, but I wouldn't write about it anymore.
Right.
And
Perfect. Yeah.
And
You can be
she
discreet.
said unequivocally, no. There is no possible way. There was only Malcolm and John. So that was enough for me. And I said, all right, well, must have been a mix-up. Hopefully I'll talk to them on Monday and...
We'll get to the bottom of
Yes,
this.
and they'll say,
Yeah.
oh, we were going to call you.
Right.
Whoops.
Great
That
news. We're
file
going to
got
send you a
switched
few
with another.
free.
Yes, sure.
Did you believe it when you hung up the phone? How'd you feel?
I did believe it.
Okay.
I did believe it because there had been times when I was looking for him and I couldn't find him that I was like, well, she must be hiding something because I couldn't find Malcolm. I thought, well, she must be hiding something.
Right.
She's protecting somebody. Many times I've all but accused her of lying, but and every time it turned out she wasn't.
Sure.
So
She's got a good track record
she
at this
hadn't
point.
lied yet.
Is it possible to not remember? I mean, I'm sorry to be graphic, but a one night stand?
Yeah.
That like just something that happened so many years ago that you've really just forgotten about it?
Yeah, I've explored all of that.
Yeah.
It could be a very specific type of amnesia.
Right. Yeah.
Just for this one night. Here's the thing. And if she was like, maybe she was experimenting with some drugs or some alcohol. But what's interesting is she always, even before any of this was a question, she's always like, oh, I never used to drink. I never used to party. And I don't care whether she did or not. But she's very firm about that. Like to know that she was a good girl.
But it is because you do put yourself in the shoes. And I think, yes, of course it's easy to forget a one night stand.
Yes.
But if you turn up pregnant, you're going to really think back and be like, who, where, was, how.
That leaves a marker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
It's a one night stand is one thing, but like if you end up with a baby because of it,
Right.
that's something you don't forget.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. According to us. Yeah. I can't imagine that not being the case, but okay.
Right. So I decided to wait until Monday. So Monday morning, I gave 23andMe a jingle jangle once again, and finally got through. Oh my gosh, you're
Just
on hold for hours
forever,
there.
of
It's
course.
a nightmare,
Yep.
especially when you're freaking out.
Right.
All right. So so I quickly ran. She listened patiently while I ran through the whole story, saying, "Oh, this has got to be a mistake, right? Right? It's a
Right.
mistake. This happens, right?" And they stood by their results, but as a courtesy, they would be happy to send a new test to Malcolm and pay for it, as well as the shipping.
Great. How are they
and
going to
the
get around
testing.
this Australia thing?
They sent it to him. They sent it directly. I think possibly 23andMe was testing Australia by then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
But their confidence was unnerving to me.
Yeah.
It was very much like, nope, doesn't happen. We'll let you can test again, but
Yeah.
it doesn't happen. So, yeah. So at the same time, I purchased another test from 23andMe to send to Louie, my sister,
Yeah.
because I could use her as the control sample.
Right. Perfect.
If
Yeah.
hers happened to come back before his did, I could get an answer sooner because I thought that was
if you're
more
related
likely.
to Louis, you're related to him. There was a mistake.
Precisely. So, and here's the thing. I didn't mention this before. The last time I had spoken to Malcolm while I was on the road in Australia, I'd been a little confrontational with him to where I wasn't sure if he'd ever want to talk to me again.
Okay.
It wasn't even, I was just over it.
fair.
I'd hit the wall to where I can't believe a single word that comes out of his mouth. What is the point?
Right.
And I just kind of called him on it. And it was interesting how he just changed the subject.
Mm-hmm.
He would just change the subject. And
I think that's what that
and
personality
that irritated
does.
me.
Yeah.
Right. It just irritated me. And so the last time we talked, we weren't on great terms, or I didn't think I wasn't on great terms with him anyway. So I was concerned that he had washed his hands of me and I couldn't get him to take another test, which is another reason why I sent one
To Louis.
to Louis,
Right.
so that, if she matched me but didn't match him,
Right.
those original, but then obviously it was a mistake. If she did match him, the original, but didn't match me, then there was not a mistake and he was not my father.
Right.
Right. And
Did you tell Louis why you needed it?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I told her that his results were inconclusive because she was planning her wedding.
Oh, sure.
She was getting married like in a few days.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to. I don't know if it would upset her as much as
It's just something else on your plate that you don't need.
I didn't want
Yeah.
her to have another thing to worry about.
Right.
But as a result, she took a long time to take that test.
Yeah.
And her results were actually the last ones to come in. I thought that she would do it really fast, but she had other things to think
weddings
about.
take a lot out of you, as I understand. Yeah.
So then I called Malcolm, and he was happy to do it.
Of course.
He was exactly the same as he'd been before.
Yep.
It was like nothing had happened.
So it just might have been that it was more of a big deal to you. You might have been reading into it the way that you felt maybe that you were over it, but he didn't detect that.
That's true. He clearly doesn't take social cues.
Sure. Yeah.
Anywho, so I had 2 tests on the way to them, which I knew would take weeks. And at the same time, I started thinking about John. Now, Lynn had told me that there's no way John could be my father because she was already pregnant when she met him.
John is Lynn's husband.
I was just gonna say, let's
Your-
review.
Your birth mother's husband.
That she married when I was 3 months old. 2 months after a month after I was given up.
So they're dating while she was pregnant with you.
Yes, they were dating while she was pregnant with me. And he knew that. In my mind, I'm thinking, maybe she miscarried and didn't know it because that happens.
Yeah.
And got pregnant right away again.
Right. Also happens.
The dates would be off, but maybe she was wrong about the dates.
Right. Right.
So, and then I started thinking, well, let me see. My DNA results came back predominantly Irish. John is 100% Irish. He's also exceptionally, well, I won't say exceptionally short, but he is nowhere near as tall as Malcolm, and I
Right.
couldn't never figure out why I was so short with 2 tall parents.
What was your connection with him when you hung out with him?
John? I mean,
Fine. But at that point,
was
under
fine.
the guise of hanging out, it's just your mom's
yeah,
husband.
I
Yeah.
wasn't connected to him, but he
Right.
was very accepting of me into the family, and you know.
Right.
He had actually had his own secret child show up a few years after I had showed up, by the
Lord.
way.
Australia, what's in the
Yeah,
water?
What are they doing down there? My God.
Yeah.
Down under means down low.
Oh, ba-dum-bum-bum. That's their new slogan. Come visit Australia.
under means down low.
under, we're down low.
So that combined with the fact that Malcolm had brown eyes and John had green eyes. I have green eyes. Mm-hmm. Lynn has blue eyes, my mother. And, you know, all of a sudden it seemed like a real possibility.
Right.
So I sent John the test. Neither of them thought that it would be him, but I sent it anyway. I said, just for my own peace of mind, I
Could
need
you
to
please?
know. Yes,
Yeah.
please do this. And they happily did it. I don't know how happy they were, but so, and then I started researching John's family tree because I thought, well, gosh, maybe this is my father. Maybe I'll just start. So I started doing that.
Yeah. Also, you got to fill up the time somehow.
Yes, I had to do something.
Right.
This had been the focus of my life for the past several years.
Yeah.
So I needed to put my focus somewhere else. So I just started doing John's genealogy. First thing I found out, Irish genealogy, difficult.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really hard. I'd never done it before, so I didn't know really what I was
Is it
looking at.
because the Catholic have a lot of children, so there's so many? You know, my dad was Irish, and he was one of 9 children.
Yeah.
My
Yes.
mother was, Jewish, and she was the only child. It tells you everything you need to know
Yeah, yeah.
about Irish and Jewish parents.
Right. Sure. Well, that wasn't daunting to me since, before the turn of the century, meaning the 20th century, people had multiple children. Anyway, almost every family. So John is not that old. That's not what I'm saying. But it was difficult it was harder to find the records and to know. It was just new to me. So
Right.
it was a little daunting. Anyway, so I started researching his tree, just in case. And I started thinking about, well, if John is my father, I have an intact, complete biological family. Both of my parents are together still.
Yeah.
And I have 3 full siblings. And that kind of blew my mind. And I wondered what that would do to them if it turned out to be so and they had given up their own child together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's too much.
Yeah.
It's too much. Yeah.
So I was a
yeah.
little concerned as to, although they've been very casual about just about everything. So they're probably like, hey, great.
Okay. You're back in.
The only thing that doesn't make sense to me here is that if your birth mother said that she was pregnant with you when she met him, and he knew about this, so to me it's a big deal. Like you start dating a girl, and she said, "Oh, by the way, I'm pregnant with somebody
Yeah.
else, somebody else's child." That's a big thing to accept, and I think kudos to him for doing that and all of that. So
Right.
they had to have had a lot of discussions about this. That's
Yes.
why I am less likely to believe this scenario where he is your father. I don't
Right.
know the truth, but this is what I'm guessing as of now.
Right.
And I will agree with you there. However, she was so adamant that there was nobody else. I couldn't imagine
Right.
it not being him. So there were a few days where I'm like, it has to be John. It just has to be.
No, I mean, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. But that scenario that you just presented of I'm the one kid they gave away is so heavy. How did that go down when you're in the mindset of this is what happened?
I was actually fine with it. I mean, I say that all
Yeah.
the time. If I was given up to a family that I believe gave me a better life than I probably would have had
Sure. Yes. Yeah.
with this family at that time. So I don't regret how it all happened.
Right.
So
That's good. Okay.
there you go.
Okay.
So January and February were a blur. Louis' first test failed.
Oh, good Lord.
So we had to send another one to
good
her.
Lord. All right.
Sometime in February, Mal's results came in, and I didn't even notice it because they were exactly the same as the other results. So he's not my father.
Guaranteed not.
Guys,
Okay.
not my father. Malcolm is not my father. And then Louis' second results came in, and she matched him 100%
Okay.
and didn't match me. Conclusive, everybody. Mal
Truly.
is not my father. So March 30th, 2015, John's ancestry results came in. Everybody, neither of these men is my father.
John, yeah, Rich and I are just shaking our heads with our mouths open. This is insane.
Yeah.
How did you feel about visiting that family for 3 weeks with the confirmed results that, I was just meeting people?
It blew my mind.
Yeah.
And it's funny. My husband kept saying, "Oh, that's awkward."
It doesn't feel
awkward wasn't the
It doesn't
word
feel
to me.
awkward.
Awkward.
Yeah.
It was more like I felt cheated, or I felt like, well, I was told that this is why. I had no reason to believe this wasn't my family, and they didn't have any reason to believe, that
Right.
it wasn't. So I had to go through the steps of contacting each and every one of them and saying, "Just kidding."
Yeah.
So this happened, and I think the worst part of it was they were all wonderful people, and they all gave me pictures and told me
Forgot
their
about that,
family
yeah.
secrets.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so I had to tell them, and some people didn't respond at all.
Sure.
And others were like, "Hey, that's okay. We're glad we met you."
They didn't think that you were some psychopath that
No.
came from America to destroy their family and dig up all of their
Right.
skeletons
Right.
and family
I don't think
secrets, because there was that little scandal that nobody wanted to talk about and you were bringing up, and it's just it's amazing. This is amazing, Julie.
I know. Yeah, it's nutty.
Did you send the pictures back?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did eventually.
God.
I did that pretty recently. I kept them for a while, and actually Kim contacted me and said, "Hey, those pictures?" I was like, "Oh, of course,
Yes,
of course.
absolutely.
I'll send them,
By all
I'll
means.
send them back."
Yeah.
So I now was back to square one.
Did your mom listen to
completely.
this podcast?
I don't know.
Okay. Because here's what I want to ask. How are you feeling about your mom right now? But if she listens, then we can be delicate with that answer.
I don't feel. I think there's a little more distance between us.
Yeah.
I mean, we were never close. Truth be told, we've
Right.
never been close. We've never had a real connection. It was always kind of a neat, fun relationship. But yeah, that was a problem.
Well, just because when you're like, wait, how did this all happen? You're like, because mom confirmed it. So,
Well, I'm going to talk about that next week.
okay.
I'll
All
tell
right.
you what
Yeah.
happened, because there's clearly still a lot more to this story, everybody. And that's the end.
Well, thank God there's not a cliffhanger this week.
Fun, huh? Yeah. All right. So on that note, Renee, tell people who you are.
I don't want to.
do it.
Okay. All right. I'm Renee. I'm on Instagram at Renee S. Culvert. I've got a podcast called Can I Pet Your Dog? I'm also a guest on a podcast called Allison Rosen is Your New Best Friend. Yippee. So if you want more podcasts to listen to, go check those out.
I want to say who I am, but now I'm starting to question it after all of this. But I think I'm Richard Castle. I do know that my website is richardcastle.com and that you can follow me on Twitter at Castle Songs. But that's really about it.
I have been through this period where I was like, nothing is real. Nothing is real anymore.
How could you not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm an alien. I am literally an alien. I actually just dropped in out of thin air.
I think you're maybe like the product of an immaculate conception. I think you're like the new Christ child.
There we go.
Christ child is a woman.
Yes.
Yeah, Ariana Grande got it right. God is a woman.
Is that an Ariana
She's got a
Grande?
new song called God is a Woman. Yeah.
Okay, guys, I am Julie Dixon Jackson. The podcast on Twitter is at Cutoff Jeans Pod. Also, I am Jules Jackson with 2 O's. At Jules Jackson with 2 O's on Twitter, and on Facebook, we are Cutoff Jeans Podcast. Come on and join us. Answer a little fun question. Extra bonus points if you say something cute. And yeah, that's it.
And rate, review, subscribe on iTunes, and tell a friend. That's your assignment.
Thank you for saying that.
You're welcome.
I don't know why I hate saying it. I hate asking people
I know,
to do
because
that.
it's hard.
I
It's
know.
hard for
It's important.
self-promotion, but you've got a great show and people need to know about it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, guys. So that's the end of the show. And always remember, this is a big one this week. And it's true that the truth is in your genes.